Hello out there, you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear listening into another Gamer's Thoughts discussion. In this, I'm going to be talking about a few things, but they all tie into each other. So, there's firstly the issue with Japanese game developers not necessarily liking the term JRPG, which describes a Japanese role-playing game or Japanese style role-playing game, which are usually turn-based. Then there is the whole way that X-Play had poorly reviewed, and I mean not necessarily because they reviewed the game poorly, but the way they conducted themselves for a review of a game, Biting Kaitos for the GameCube, and then Adam Sessler's decision to lash out at people who point out said thing and criticize it. So there's a few things that I will be talking about briefly as I can, mostly because I think that this is important and I wanted to cover it myself. Now, first thing is that Japanese game developers disliking the term JRPG. And at first I didn't understand it because it just denotes that, hey, this game's styling was originated in Japan. But then I also didn't know the particular nuances as to why they would dislike it. Now I do, and I can actually give a little bit more insight on that because I remember seeing so many people jumping and chomping at the bit to jump and talk about this, whereas I remained quiet. And I thought, there's more to this situation. And then we get the X-Play thing, and it kind of just starts to make sense. And I'm like, oh, these tie into each other. Whether people realized it or not, they do tie directly into each other. And it's not just like Biting Kaitos that X-Play did this with, or a lot of westernized gaming media did. They did this to multiple different RPG titles from Japan. And I think they were the ones that coined JRPG, which I don't think all Japanese developers have an issue with it. I know there was one in particular that did and stated his issue with it, and there may be others who agree with him. So I'm not trying to discount what they feel or think. But I just wanted to say, I know it's not a denotation of everyone. It's not everyone that thinks the same way, because there are probably Japanese developers that came into the industry after the term was coined, and they just treat it as, okay, well, they're talking about games that are RPGs that are of Japanese origin or Japanese styled. That said, I can see why Japanese game developers, especially those who specialize in RPGs, specifically the turn-based style RPGs with lengthy stories, I can understand why they would have umbrage with that statement or with that term. And again, I'm not trying to discount anything that they may have felt about it. I'm just saying, if we look at history and the way things have played out, we have westernized media treating Japanese games like they're garbage or trash, even though a lot of the things that westernized game developers have developed their styles from were the Japanese developed games. That's where the majority of what they like came from. That's where the majority of their inspiration came from. Now it's going back and forth a bit more because there are more westernized studios that are doing things that are interesting to the Japanese developers and back and forth and vice versa. But that's something that would have naturally happened over time anyway, but the original inspiration for the most part started out in Japan. So we take all of that into account. But then we take into account that things like, Nintendo starting to do Nintendo Directs and Adam Sessler being one of the loudest speaking out against it. Because guess what happened that caused Nintendo to decide to do Nintendo Directs? Remember, during that time frame, there were a lot of things misquoted and said wrong, and things were pointed to the wrong person. Heck, I even, at the beginning of me working out things on YouTube, pointed out a few articles that misquoted people or put something in the wrong context. Like there was a I think it was the one was for Star Fox Zero, and it claimed that a Platinum Game Studio developer said something that they never said. The person that they were talking about was from Nintendo, and he was talking about the intensity of developing the game versus how they contextualized it, where it was like, oh, Miyamoto's causing problems with the development of Star Fox Zero. Those are two different things. And if you go back to the original, I know the video's on my YouTube channel somewhere. I'll probably, on the YouTube version of this, I'll probably link it so people can go back and check it out. But yeah, that happened a lot. And with that context added to things, I can start to see where the Japanese game developers will be frustrated and agitated and then be like, well, they're treating us and our development styles as if we're second class or beneath them. And that's honestly, when you look at how some of these reviews were conducted and how they behaved, especially when it comes down to like X-Play and other mass media at the time. Come on now. You can start to fit the pieces of the puzzle together. And anybody that says, oh, Andre, you're grasping at straws here, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I know I'm not in this particular instance. Because as soon as Nintendo started doing Nintendo Directs, they got the same type of treatment that a lot of the Japanese game developers got for reviews of their games. There's a difference between somebody saying, okay, I was disappointed in this because of this, this, and this, versus behaving like a Neanderthal. And that's what happened a lot with X-Play. They behaved like Neanderthals, and they were one of the bigger platforms at the time, so a lot of people listened to them and echoed their thoughts, even without touching or getting involved in the games that they talked about. Because, I mean, that was the purpose of them. Hey, we use you guys to review this to see if it's a good game, to kind of parse if we're going to like it. Me personally, I knew I liked a lot of stuff that other people didn't like. I mean, I still like Quest 64, and I know a bunch of people hated that game, but I like it because of the things that it did that were interesting. Things that have never, or at least I have never seen done again in another game. In another RPG, I would love to see it happen, but it just hasn't been done. Because I'm pretty sure there's a way that formula can be worked that it would be great. It just didn't get enough time or another chance to really be worked on again. But again, I know my tastes vary from the general game populace. So I am the outlier for the most part. Now I'm the outlier. I would have been commonplace back in like the early 2000s. I'm the outlier now. But that all said, you look at this and then you go back and you consider the things that have been said, that have been done, the way things have been presented, how things have been treated. Yes, I do understand the frustration from the Japanese side of the gaming sphere. I do understand it. Now, that also said, when someone decided, hey, we're going to call these people out on it and we're going to show why we're calling them out and give a criticism of how it was conducted and why people feel the way they feel. And then you have one of the loudest, most obnoxious voices who doesn't want to take the time to look in the mirror at himself, who needs to go get some sort of psychiatric therapy. And I don't say that as a slight. I believe he actually needs psychiatric therapy because there is something deeply wrong with that man that he, one, doesn't want to get the help for, or two, believes he doesn't need help. But he decides to spout off and bash the person and ad hominem attack and not even address the subject matter. Which that happens a lot nowadays because a lot of people don't want to take accountability for how they behaved or acted. I mean, honestly, Adam Sessler, you could have said, and plenty of people had suggested it to you, like, well, this was a different time. We didn't really know much about what we were saying back then, and we didn't think it would offend anyone or hurt them back then. We thought it was just jokes. You could have done that. People would have actually applauded you for taking accountability and saying, well, at the time, things were different. There's not much I can do about it now, other than try to improve going forward. But you doubled down, which shows that you don't want to improve. You want to behave and be the same person, the same obnoxious lunatic that you have been. And you want to go unaccountable. You want to go and be able to do and say whatever you feel like, whenever you feel like, without somebody going back and critiquing you and looking over what you do. You put yourself in a position of being a face in a gaming sphere. You did that. No one else. You put yourself there. You were a part of a lot of the things that X-Play did back in the day that many people now wouldn't do. You were a part of that roster. You were there for those events. You participated. And maybe your career didn't take off the way that you thought it was going to, or the way that you feel you deserved for it to take off. But I'm sorry, your actions led you down this path, my man. It's on you. Simple as that. It's on you. You did it. You have to deal with the consequences of it. You may not like that, but that's how life works. Doubling down on something that you know is bad does not help you. It doesn't make you look stronger. It honestly just makes you look crazy. And not crazy like, ha, funny crazy. It makes you look crazy like, okay, we need to stay away from this person. Now, normally, when it comes down to stuff like this, and I see someone be a disrespectful rat in the same way you were, I would be using a lot of profanities and I'd be cussing you out, but I honestly do think that you seriously need some sort of mental help. And I've said it before, I will say it again, and I will repeat it. I don't even care if you come after me. I'll still say it. You need therapy. You need help with your issues. You need to learn how to be able to take a criticism from someone and not take it personally. Because the person criticized the product, not the person. And your immediate response was to attack the person who criticized the product that you were a part of that was faulty. That needs to stop. And if I have to sing it from the highest mountaintops to draw attention to it, and if other people join in to draw attention to it, then maybe there's actually a problem. Maybe, just maybe, Adam Sessler isn't as deserving of a person as he feels he is entitled to be. Maybe, just maybe, you need to sit back and think about your actions before you act. And maybe be more reasonable. And maybe go get some help with those problems that you're having, that you are taking out on everyone else. Because that's exactly what you're doing. I don't know what your personal issues are, but I do hope that you actually go get some help with them. But this is not the way to keep going. And it's not the way to remain relevant in the spotlight. Unless you just truly want to become infamous, which you already are. I mean, if you want to become infamous and be the bad guy in the story, then you've already done it. You've achieved your goal. Now, if you don't want that, and you actually want people to think positively of you, or look at you in a positive light, then you need to go get the help that you need. Simple as that. Now, I didn't mean to turn this into an intervention, but yeah. Because that is connected to this. I don't know where his attitude came from. Not frankly worried about it, but I do know that it is a problem for him, and it may have bled into the different things that he's been a part of. I mean, mind you, this is the same person that says it's okay to dox people because you have a difference of opinion. Simple as that. It's okay to put someone's life in danger because you don't agree with them. It's okay to decide that, hey, we're going to swap. And let me turn my alarm off. It's okay, we're going to swap you. He may not have said that one openly, but I mean, if you're willing to dox someone because of a difference of opinion, swatting's not too far away. So, just my 2 cents on the matter. But yeah, so Japanese developers, not all, but a good portion, didn't like the term JRPG because of how their products got treated and how reviews were handled of their products. So it created a bad taste in their mouth. One of the people that got called out for it, as well as their company got called out for it, decided that they were going to bash people who called them out for it and criticize them. And said person is still a face of the video game industry, someone that people decide that they really want to listen to even though they shouldn't. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't because I dislike his opinions. I'm saying they shouldn't because of how he participates in social media and discourse. That's why I'm saying people shouldn't listen to him. I stopped listening to him in my teenage years. Other people probably should stop listening to him after this last round of rants that he's done. But that's the whole conclusion from my end on this. So if anyone has anything that they would like to say or add, I implore you to do so. Please feel free. But otherwise, thank you all very much for listening in. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games. Peace out, everybody.